Uh, Hello. Welcome to my office. Here I have a couple of things that I would like to talk about. One is this record. This was made in 1962, and this, as near as I can tell, was done in the late 1800s. It is a copy of The Last of the Mohicans by James Fenimore Cooper. What do these two items have in common? Well, they are both very old. And, well, for one there, the book is over 100 years old, and the record, the vinyl record that belongs in that jacket, which is actually out on the turntable, was released in 1962, the year after I was born. So it's just shy of being as old as I am, and if I were to look up there in my record collection, or there somewhere, I would probably find some more records there that are at least as old as I am. Which brings me to the topic of my discussion today. My discussion centers around the case for physical media, i.e. books and records, and to a lesser degree cassettes, and even lesser degree CDs and DVDs. In this world that we live in now, the last 20 years or so, we have instant media, instant movies, instant music, instant ebooks on a wide variety of platforms and devices. And well, while that's well and good, there's something to be said. In fact, I think it's a very good case for sticking with traditional old school media, i.e. books, physical books, that you actually have to pick up and carry and hold on to, and actually have to work to read, and records, vinyl, which you have to actually do the work to make it work. I like to compare playing a record to driving a stick shift car, 4 on the floor, 5 on the floor car of olden days, which actually you can still get them. My son just got a new truck that has 6 on the floor. He likes a standard shift. In order to make a standard shift code, you have to actually do the work, run the clutch, the brake, the gas, and manually move the lever and shift the gears. To make a record go, you actually have to do the work. You have to pull the record out of the jacket, put it on the turntable, turn your amps on, they're not on already, and and put the record down on the needle down on the record and let it play. Then you actually, when it's over, you have to go back and flip the side and so you can hear the other side. You actually have to do the work to make the record play. And there's something to be said for that. But there's a whole nother aspect of this that I don't think a lot of people have thought about. That is to say, will we be able to listen to this video 100 years from now, or play the CDs and the music that we have now all on CDs and MP3 files, WAV files, FLAC files, and various other formats of digital audio. And will we be able to use that media 75, 50, 100 years from now? I mean, it's already happening to media already where there is media and no players. One example would be the early 70s with the advent of modern, I use the word modern relatively loosely, mainframe computers that stored extra media that stored a lot of data on the big, were essentially like a reel-to-reel tape, and it was a magnetic tape similar to what we would call a cassette or an 8-track now, but it was just a bigger quarter-inch tape. It was, or half-inch tape. I'm not even sure exactly what it was, but the point is, it was the data was stored on the tapes, and if you don't have the right computers to play those tapes and read those codes on the tape, you might as well not even have the tape because they're useless. And so are we headed for this in the next few years with the media that we have now? I can take this book, like I said, this book is over 100 years old, and I can read it. Granted, I gotta be pretty careful, the pages ain't too good. It's been around. It's actually, there's a notation in the front of it here. I can't read entirely all of what they wrote there, but it says Xmas 1892. I do believe that is an 8. So that's like 1892. So this book is old. And like I said, this record, this particular one, I chose this one because it was old. You will see if you can get it to zoom in there. It says on the back, somewhere here, somewhere, oh, there it is, on the front, excuse me, on the front. It says, newest album by 1962, double Oscar the newest album by 1962's double Oscar winner Mancini includes Baby Elephant Walk, Your Father's Feathers, the theme from Hatari, and others. Music from the Paramount motion picture score by Henry Mancini. The movie was directed by Howard Hawks. I've seen the movie several times. It is awesome to see in 4K on a huge screen. I would love to see that one in the big theater. But I digress. The point is, 60 years later almost, I can still play that record. 100 years later, I can still read this book. So, while the digital lifestyle is nice, it's convenient. I do use Pandora on occasion. I love my Netflix and Hulu and BritBox for my British television shows that I like, particularly the mysteries and all this. If it went away tomorrow, I would be sad. But what will we have in a few years from now? Will we be able to play the music that is out on our computers and read the e-books that we have now? I've written more short stories than I can count. I've written a short novel, but I can never pronounce that word, book that exists only on my hard drive, and I'm the website for it. There's no physical copy of it. The book that I'm working on now, the second book in the series, is up to 170 some odd pages, none of which there is a physical copy of. They all live digitally. So unless I print out a physical copy, which at some point I probably will, although I hate to waste the ink and the paper, I would like to have a physical copy. Nothing else for myself. What's going to happen years from now will people be able to read these stories. And if you create something in the digital world, people will be able to read it, use it, see it, play it, whatever it is that your digital asset creation is. But there's another point to be added to the pile for the argument for old school media, and that is jobs. Records actually create a lot of jobs, something that I don't think most people have thought about. The production of a record is The production of a record actually produces a lot of work for a lot of people. A record does not get created in a vacuum. Once the artist and the producer and the editors and all the people that are directly involved in making the music are done, the master tape, usually on half-inch tape or something of that nature, is sent to the pressing plant where very old and specialized equipment is used to make a master disc that the records are pressed from. So you have a lot of jobs there in the actual physically making the record. Then you have distribution. That's not even also counting artist for the cover art and the linear notes. The art that goes on the front of the record and the stuff that goes on the back of the record, that all has to be created. And some records have extra, this one doesn't have anything. Right. Some records have extra content that's in the record, that's in the sleeve that the record rides in when you buy it. Some of you have fold-out books and all kinds of extra content, and all that has to be created, which of course means more jobs. Then you have, as I started to say, distribution. So once the records are pressed, they have to be distributed, sent to wholesalers and other vendors to get the records to the retail marketplace. And then you have the retail marketplace itself, which has, of course, then the salesmen, stock boys, and all the people who manually handle the records. Once it comes in the back, it has to go to the front so that where the customers can buy it. And so you have all these people, so it's creating jobs there. And a secondary branch of that is the used record market. I know of at least 3 in my immediate area, actually 4. 2 of them are larger operations that are more, that are very much a, not the word I was looking for, they are less personal. The couple of the places I'm thinking of that I've been to with my son, they are small mom and pop operations. They go around, they buy records for a little bit of nothing at estate sales and wherever they can find them. They grade them, they play them, make sure they all play, and then they sell them. And usually you can buy some pretty decent stuff. In fact, I think this Henry Mancini Atari record came from one of those places, and I think we gave over a couple bucks for it. We gave that much. And it plays beautiful. Of course, the downside to buying used vinyl, of course, is it is a bit of a crapshoot because, well, that one plays beautiful. I have several others up there that aren't so good. But that's, you're not investing very much money in there. And so, you can afford to take a chance. And if you get a copy that doesn't play good, just make a note of it, and when you go out looking again, find another copy. Hopefully you can get a better copy to replace it with. So that's another aspect of the physical media, the records that people don't think about, is the used record market and the jobs that it generates and the income it generates. There was something else too here. Hang on, mine just went on me. Reissues. That's where I was going to say, reissues. I knew there was something floating around the back of my head. I have half a dozen records here that are reissues. A couple of my favorites. It's not here. It's in the living room. One of them is Miles Davis, 1959 release, Kind of Blue. with Miles Davis, John Coltrane. I can't remember now who else was on it. It's an excellent, excellent record. It's considered one of the best jazz records ever made. I have a reissue that, if I didn't know it was a reissue, the cover art and everything on it is identical to what it was when it was originally released in 1959. The market for reissue records has increased substantially in the last few years. More and more records are being remastered and reissued. But that leads us down the garden path of garbage in, garbage out. If they don't have a good master copy to work from, there's only so much they can do. If they make, it's kind of like when you make a 4K print out of a 1970 something or 1960 something movie, try to upscale it to 4K. Garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have a good, clean, pristine master copy to work from, there's no way, no matter how good your technology is and how good your tech is at doing the up conversion, it's going to be as good as it was if it had been shot in 4K originally. And it's the same way with vinyl. If you have to have people that A, know what they're doing, and B, you want to get as close to the original source material as possible to make your new masters from, to make your new reissues from. Most of the time, most stuff is pretty good, especially if you never heard it before. You probably know the difference now if you've heard the original copy, and then you hear the reissue, and you really know what you're listening for. You could probably tell the difference, but most of us aren't going to be able to tell the difference. But it is something to be aware of. So, anyway, I digress again. I do a lot of digressing. This is my take on the physical media. The idea that while the digital stuff is nice and well, there are several other issues with digital media, particularly the likes of Vudu, Amazon Prime, places where you buy digital copies. I have a bit of a problem with that because I own this record. I own these records. I can do what I want with them. Nobody can take them away from me. They're there till whenever. However, if I own a digital copy of a movie or a TV show or even music, and the venue that I get this copy from disappeared for whatever reason, or is down, which would be more than likely, but is worst case scenario, Vudu goes under. Suddenly, millions and millions of people who have bought, I use the word again loosely, bought movies and TV shows on Vudu, suddenly they don't have access to them. So they're kind of like SOL here. And there's not a whole heck of a lot they can do about it. I mean, unless they have a hard copy, a DVD, or a Blu-ray of the content that they bought from Vudu, which I don't really consider it buying. I consider it renting or leasing. You don't ever completely own that digital copy. You may only think you do, but you don't. They own it. You're just paying them lease money to have the right to play it whenever you feel like it. But if they go out of business or they decide they don't want, geez, I can't. Okay, back again. And my phone keeps shutting off at the 10-minute mark. This is a long video. I'm going to stitch this all together. Hopefully I can do a decent job. But if Vudu decides, for whatever reason, that they don't want to serve you that media, again, you're on a rented playing field, on rented property. You don't own Voodoo. You don't have any stake in Voodoo. You're playing by their rules, and if they decide to change the rules for whatever arbitrary reason, they can. And it's the same with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. All the above mentioned are notorious for changing the rules midstream, and usually they have very little rhyme or reason, but there's not a heck of a lot you can do about it. You don't own the media, you don't own the platform. You're using rented, I call it rented property, and once you're on rented property such as YouTube or Facebook or whatever, and Voodoo, you're at the mercy of them. They can do whatever the heck they want, and they can, and they do. I didn't mean to go off on that tangent, but that's something I've thought about several times lately. So, anyway, that concludes my case for old school medias, particularly books and records, and to a lesser degree, cassettes. I mean, I have cassettes that I've stashed away somewhere here, that I know that I had when I was a teenager. So there's like 40-year-old cassettes laying around here somewhere. At the moment, I don't have anything to play them on, so they're kind of like useless. So you stash them away, and hopefully at some point I'll be able to wrangle a cassette player, and I'll be in business, and I'll be able to play some of my cassettes. Some of that is the only copy of some of that music I have is on the cassette. So this is something to think about, you know. Reel-to-reel. My brother had a reel-to-reel player once decades ago. I wish we still had it now, but you know, that was then, this is now, and maybe if I'm really lucky one of these days I'll run into something I can afford and be in a position to buy it, and I would love to have a reel-to-reel player along with a cassette player, and you know, and upgrade the equipment that I do have out there as I go, you know. So, but the point is, I own them. You can't arbitrarily take them away from me or decide my usage rights or otherwise. So, this little food for thought, and I thank you for listening to this extra long video. I will see if I can get this edited and put together into some kind of coherency. And be sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified when I put up new videos. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.